How is everybody? Dr. Katka here for Medical Monday. Today we're talking about the lungs. It is sunset, even though where you are is probably early on. It is sunset here in Europe, and I'll share that with you shortly, although we're behind clouds. But let us focus on the lungs today. The most important piece about lungs is they are not spoken about as much as far as how do I prevent my lungs from getting ill? How do I not have to have asthma? How do I prevent getting colds and flus, pneumonias, and especially now, how can I strengthen my lungs, as that is one of the organs that the current virus is attacking the most. So let's talk about lungs as an organ in connection to its sister organ. That would be, in Chinese medicine, we're talking the lungs, large intestine. What that means that our gut, if you think about it, lungs, just like our digestive tract, are two systems, organ system, they're exposed to the outside world, right? Our heart is not, our brain is not, our liver is not. Our lungs are by the breath that's coming in, and so is our digestive tract by the food and the water that we drink. And the connection is thus that immunoglobulin A, IgA, is the first protection that we have as little children, babies, from the mother that helps us protect against the outer pathogen. Lungs are similar. So if we have inflammation in the lungs, if we are struggling with asthma, if we're struggling with the triad, which is hay fever, asthma, and skin conditions such as eczema, highly inflammatory, high histamine conditions, instead of focusing strictly on the lungs, which there's two supplements and few foods that we can do that I'll share with you, we actually need to go down and focus on the gut. It's like if we think lungs, large intestine, lungs are the base on top of the triangle on top of the base of the large intestine. So what do we do for the large intestine? We talk about that prior many times, but just quickly, something as simple as fiber and anti-inflammatory foods such as turmeric and green foods are going to make a big difference. The other most important part is we need to be eliminating through our colon so that our lungs are actually more open and available. So elimination daily, we can do magnesium, we can do other, like a lot of fiber, but activated charcoal, I have talked about that, and we're back to the activated charcoal. Whatever we're binding in the gut that's coming out and the large intestine is actually protecting our lungs. So lungs, conditions of virus and bacteria, right? So if I have stronger lungs, I'm not going to be as sick with viruses and bacteria. Same thing. Let me see. Hello. Absolutely. I'll just talk about a few things here, but the most important thing is that we do want to connect the dots, right? So if I have asthma, if I have any inflammatory conditions such as hay fever, I would really benefit from two things, okay? One is activated charcoal for the colon. Two, something called NAC, N-acetyl cysteine. The most healing nutrient there is for our lungs. We take anywhere from 600 to 1,000 milligrams 2 or 3 times a day. The way I make it even more supercharged, remember me talking about glutathione, yeah? So NAC, glutamine, and glycine are 3 amino acids that actually create this special peptide, which is glutathione. It's highly anti-inflammatory, it's highly antioxidant, it supports our lungs together with every other cell in the body. So what I like to do, if there is a supplement you want to spend your money on, most of everything I try to do with food, but this one, literally, I don't go anywhere without. I have baggies of this with me. It's S-Acetyl Glutathione Synergy. The reason I like it, it has the glutathione at 100 milligrams per capsule, and it has 1,000 milligrams of NAC in it. So we're actually doing 2 at once. And that is my alarm. I apologize for that. I just didn't want to miss the sunset, so here we are a little bit early. But NAC with glutathione, the best thing we can do for the lungs. You remember me talking COVID prevention? Yes, it's vitamin C. Yes, it's vitamin D. Yes, it's zinc. But we forget the liver, the lungs, the large intestine, which is where the NAC with the glutathione comes in. If you take nothing out of this talk today, NAC and glutathione, you can get any brand you like, but the S-Acetyl Glutathione Synergy from Designs for Health is one of the best, and I have had the biggest success. I've just heard from somebody that there's a controversy about glutathione. I've spoken to a doctor that is having me talk to nurses and help them transition and support their patients with IV therapies, and they have not had success with IV glutathione. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's something has to be going on that we have to talk, because glutathione has been the most beneficial when it comes to healing every organ in the body, but especially the lungs and the liver. So let's go back to inflammation and asthma, and what do we do about that? So I told you two main nutrients, right? The NAC and glutathione we'll do as one, lungs, liver, detoxification, you name it. But there is something called NAG, and it stands for N-acetyl Glucosamin. It's not the glucosamine for our joints, that's just plain glucosamine. This is NAG, N-acetyl Glucosamin. What that does, this is so important and it's forgotten. I remember I had a special teaching from a doctor, and he said this is so forgotten in medicine, in naturopathic medicine. When we look at our gut, so think about, if we cut through, there is multiple layers there. So there's the mucosa, right? That's the one that gets really inflamed. In most of lung conditions, literally are going to have inflamed mucosa in the gut, and this is so important because the mucosa is inflamed, so the good bacteria cannot really live on that. And what are we giving? We're giving probiotics and we're giving glutamine, right? But glutamine and probiotics, they only can heal the superficial layer, and if the superficial layer is kind of stripped off and inflamed, they don't have anywhere to attach to do the good work. So what do we need to do? We gotta go layer below. That's the submucosa. The submucosa is so important because that's where the lymphocytes come in. That's where our immune system comes in, right? Like, how can we eat all the food that we eat and our body doesn't get infected? Is because there's massive amount of lymphocytes all around this tube that lives right there. So we gotta make sure we actually have a really good boundary between the outer world and the world of the inner part of who we are, which is like an army of white blood cells there, right? If we have these big molecules like gluten and dairy, and if there's inflammation in the mucosa, instead of them breaking down and coming through and being actually able to get processed and caught by the lymphocytes, they're not. They're just coming, these big molecules, causing, it's gonna be a little windy, guys. I lost my mic. I have to get a new one. So hang in there, I'll be loud. But these big molecules actually create massive amount of inflammation, and then that reverses back and affects our lungs and the rest of our immune system. We are prone to histamine reactions, we're prone to infections, we're prone to allergies, you name it. It comes from the submucosa in the gut. So what do? We gotta heal that. Of course we heal that by taking better care of our foods. We can take a break for 3 weeks, 2 weeks at least, but 3 weeks if we can. Dairy, gluten, eggs and corn, these big allergens, if we can put them aside and do lots of greens, and at the same time take NAG, high doses of NAG, at least 1,000 milligrams twice a day. That is the best thing to support our submucosa. Then later on we can take probiotics and glutamine, but if we just take a bunch of glutamine and probiotics, we're not gonna cut it. We gotta heal the submucosa. So you would not think, right? I was like, okay, lungs, of course we have to talk about the colon, because the colon, the small and the large intestine are a huge part of our lung healing. So remember, S-Acetyl Glutathione with NAC and then NAG. What else do we need for our lungs? Where I kind of gave you a little bit of hint the other day. You'll be tired of me talking about it, but let's go back to the breath. And I told you, it's like training a muscle. It's like training a muscle is when we breathe, we literally open. So the diaphragm, let's talk the diaphragm. It's the most important muscle there is. It's our breathing muscle, right? I shouldn't say that. There is no really more important muscle. The heart is a muscle. So, but it's one of the most important muscles. It's right here under our rib cage. And when we inhale, we're supposed to make the belly big and the diaphragm goes down, so then the lung can expand. This is huge. This is important. This is where up to 100% of our lung capacity is held. Most of us, however, are taught to breathe up here. What's happening when I'm breathing up here? My diaphragm is going up, right? I'm actually constricting the biggest pieces of my lungs, the biggest lobes at the bottom, and I'm only breathing 20, 30, 40% max of air. Oh my gosh, you guys, no supplement can fix this. We wanted, the number one nutrient is oxygen, oxygen, oxygen. It's freely available, and let's use it, right? Okay, yes. Lungs, we're going to talk about breath. We're going to talk about air, because so much can heal with breath. Belly breath. We make the belly big. So important. If you don't know, I was teaching my dad. Oh my gosh, I'm telling him, breathe into your belly. Breathe into your belly. And he goes, breathe into your belly. He goes deeper. We're not used to it. It takes practice. The best way to practice, I'm not going to do it here, lay down on the back, bend your knees, and imagine there's a bowl in your belly, and you make it as big as you can, like a beach ball, and then tiny, and like, almost like bring the belly in on exhale, as big as you can. It's going to be a little strenuous at first. Please keep practicing, and then take the supplements, okay? I'll leave you with that, because the more oxygen there goes into our lungs, the more obviously our blood will be oxygenated, but also the more lymph is going to move through the lungs, the more blood is going to move through the lungs, the more expansion is there, and the more out. So if we have any chronic anything happening in the lungs, remember the alveoli, there's like this big sac, right? And then it's filled with these tiny little beautiful sacs. It looks so gorgeous if you've ever seen a lung. These sacs, if they stay dormant and they're not getting, they can easily, mucus can form there, and then bacteria can live on there, and then they actually can burst, and bronchiectasis happens. We don't want that. We want to make sure they're working really well, opening, closing, so we can keep them alive and well and healthy. So the one thing to remember is breath, really. I keep talking about it, but it is the truth. So let's remember that. And then lastly, lungs are closely related to our heart, right? The lungs are bringing the oxygen to, basically there's two blood flows, or two blood flows in our body. It's the one that the oxygenated blood is being brought into all of the body. At the same time, the blood, the venous blood without oxygen, is going into our lungs. This is so important, because pretty much the same amount of blood flow that is going through our body is going through our lungs. And if we think about that, it's like, okay, I really want to take this 5-6 liters of blood that I have, and I want to super oxygenate them, because that is in my power. A lot of things are not the cleanliness of our air outside sometimes, but this is. So let's focus on that. Yeah. And the last thing is, if you are living in a city, if you're living someplace that you know the air is not the cleanest, of course we want to go to nature and breathe clean air. Unfortunately, we don't have the sunset today because it's all behind clouds, but just imagine it was right about there, somewhere behind the clouds. So nature, of course, if we can, but also let's get some really good air purifier, even if it's for the biggest room or for the bedroom. It makes a big difference, okay? So hope this helps. If you have any questions, let me know. There's so much more we can talk about, really, but I just wanted to connect the dots, you know, like the long, large intestine. This is a thousands and thousands year old connection from Chinese medicine. They know what they're talking about, and we want to bring it into our health. And let's remember the NAC, and if we can get the NAC with the glutathione, S-Acetyl Glutathione Synergy, I'll make a note for you guys. And then let's remember the gut. Yeah, that's why we do cleansing for the colon first before anything else. All right, any questions, let me know. So good to see you. I'll be back maybe with some more tidbits about lungs and other organs. Definitely keep you posted how things are. And oh my goodness, so good to see you, and thank you for visiting. Take good care. Bye. Oh my gosh, Mary. Okay, yes, COPD. Does this help with lung disease like COPD? Yes. And you ask me, how does Steve know? So I was mentioning about Steve. honestly, I see people getting better with COPD and when we do the hydrogen peroxide intravenous treatment, but I don't have many before and after CT scan. This gentleman happened to go to the hospital, had other issues going on. They did a CT scan. We did diagnosis, black on white, COPD. We did 10, that's it. 10 treatments of intravenous hydrogen peroxide. The reason that is so powerful is because the venous blood goes directly into the lungs, remember? And the hydrogen peroxide literally bubbles through it's remarkable. Like, we don't have that proven, but that is the research behind it. We don't have a visual, but the research behind it actually goes through the alveoli right into the lungs. Well, lo and behold, his CT, after about a few weeks after the hydrogen peroxide IVs, it says no airspace disease. This is remarkable. Like, they're like, is this the same person, right? So it is available. Even diseases like COPD can be healed. At that point, we need to do a little bit more, but everything I said is a start. He definitely was on the NAC, S-Acetyl Glutathione Synergy, okay? So we do everything we can. So there is hope for us. You have a beautiful day. Take care. Bye-bye.